The person I chose is Gordon Parks. He was born on November 30th, 1912, in Fort Scott, Kansas. He was the first African American photographer for magazines such as Life and Vogue. He is the youngest of 15 children, and his father was a farmer. His mother passed away when he was only 15. Parks attended a segregated elementary school. However, the town was too small to have a segregated high school. Blacks were not able to play sports or attend after-school activities. They were also encouraged to ignore any desire to have a higher education. Parks remembers one of his teachers telling him that if he attended college, it would be a waste of money. And he is also a self-taught photographer. Since his mother died when he was only 15, he did not finish high school. He instead went to go live with his sister and her husband. He soon had arguments with his brother-in-law and was kicked out of his sister's house and became homeless. In this period of time he had a variation of jobs. He worked at a brothel as a piano player, but he soon quit after one person stabbed another right in front of him. He also worked as a bellboy at a club and a hotel. His photography career did not start until he was a waiter working on a train. When one of the passengers left behind a magazine, he picked it up. On the front he saw migrant farm workers. This was taken by photographers working for the government's Farm Security Administration, or FSA. They had used these images to show the effects of the Great Depression. In an interview he said, "I saw that the camera could be a weapon against poverty, against racism, against all sorts of wrong." He knew then he had had a camera. He bought one at a pawnshop in Seattle and started teaching himself photography for 3 years. In 1940, he convinced the owner of a clothing store to hire him as a photographer. This impressed Marva Lewis, who helped him get work and jobs by shooting fashion. Um, Marva Lewis is the wife of the famous boxer Joe Louis. Parks also took this opportunity to take a few shots of poverty on Chicago's South Side. As a result, he got an opportunity to go to Washington, D.C., where he was assigned to shoot discrimination in the area, and he chose Ella Watson as his subject. Ella was a cleaning woman in the FSA offices whose father had been killed by a lynch mob. He had her pose in front of the American flag with a mop and a broom. He named this photo America Gothic 1942 as a reference to Grant Woods's 1931 painting of a white farm couple. Rage was racing through Parks when he captured this photo, because he remembered the multitude of stores who had denied him service in this area. His boss loved his work but was afraid it would result in both of them getting fired. This photo went on to be one of Parks' most famous images. So this is the image, American Gothic. Um, I like how the stripes in the American flag start out very strong and bold, and then they fade as they go to the left. I also love how on the left side of her face it's a very dark shadow, but on the right side of her face it's very light. I like how um, the outline of her body somehow draws you to her, so you focus on her and not the flag. The only thing I would change about it is the broom. It seems too big in the picture. I would just keep the mop in it. So this second image is the emerging man. Um, I love how the light near his nose is lighter than the rest of his face. What Parks does, which I really love, is he makes sure your eyes go to the subject and nothing else. So my eyes are immediately drawn to his face. I like how his hands are just creeping out of the pothole like he's gonna get up. I also love how close it is and just his face and his eyes, you can see everything very clearly. What I would change in this photo is the background. Everything's very blurry, and while that has a cool effect, I feel like it would have a stronger image if there was, if you could see it a little bit better. Not like all the way, so you could still keep concentration on the face, but just some so you could see what the background is. Now, this picture is called Outside Looking In, and it's a bunch of children looking inside a fence. I love how they're all lined up and how all the colors contrast to each other. However, it would be kind of cool if there were more children or if they were closer together. I like how it's a different perspective. Instead of them being in the park, they're looking outside. The branches kind of form like a little frame around the picture, which I think is really cool. And he captures the sky and the children, so it's like a wide photo. I would like it if I think that's a Ferris wheel in the background. I would like it if the Ferris wheel and all the other stuff was kind of somehow you could see it better, so you would know what they're actually looking at. But I also think that's a good thing because it has a sort of mystery to it. Now, this photo is called Mrs. Lucy Johnson. Um, I love how it's a side profile. You can see all the shadows, and I like just her expression. It's a very plain background, which I think suits it because, and again, you can, your eyes are going in on the subject just in all his photos. I think it could use more shadows though in her cheekbone and in her face. I think that would be a cool effect, or maybe even in her clothes a little bit. The shadows are very diffused, so it would be kind of cool to see what they would look like if they were more sharp. Now, this last photo is called Red Jackson. I like um I like how the shadows, these are more darker shadows than what was in Mrs. Lucy Johnson. Um I think that's glass in front of him, glass that's kind of cracked or maybe even fogged. I like how that's portrayed. I like the building. You can just see a little bit of it, but just enough so it sparks your interest. This has a lot of mystery around it, and I think that's really cool because that's up for interpretation. Um, I would like some parts of the photo to be lightened, like on his hair on the very back, but then again, it adds mystery to it. So I think if it wasn't there, it wouldn't be as strong as an image.